This is the podcast helping to create, provide, and expand
winners in life.
Positively life-changing experiences through music for all.
Go for it!
This is the podcast that encourages everyone to
break ranks!
Welcome to Break Ranks, the official podcast of the Bands of America Marching Band Championships. I'm Dan Potter, one of the stadium announcers and a media personality for Bands of America and Music for All. Marching band and the marching music activities that have come collectively to be known as the pageantry arts, they've been a big part of my life for over 40 years now. First as a member of my high school marching band, and then a marching member of a DCI drum corps, then as an instructor of both, before finally settling into the announcer's chair in the early 1990s. Monday through Friday, I work in news radio. I'm the morning host at KRMG in Tulsa, Oklahoma, an area that is blessed with several top-flight Bands of America bands. I'm so happy to be able to revive Break Ranks. This was a Bands of America podcast, I think, before we even really called them podcast, back in 2006 through 2011. Break Ranks is back to highlight the excellence that the BOA fall season produces. Over the next 10 weeks, we will hear from performers, designers, and fans about the shows and the work it takes to put them on the field. We're going to begin with the director of BOA's defending Grand National Champion, the Carmel Marching Greyhounds from Carmel, Indiana. Kreke is their director. With 6 Grand National wins, Carmel holds more BOA Grand National titles than any other BOA band except Marian Catholic, which has 7. Chris gave me a lot of information about what to expect from this season and some great tidbits for first-time marching students and their parents. You want to give us a little preview before we do anything else of what we'll see on the field from our defending national champion?
Sure. Our 2023 production is going to be titled Prophecy, and it's going to musically use Leonard Bernstein's First Symphony. The Jeremiah Symphony. Which we're really excited about being able to use. Obviously, any of Bernstein's music's fantastic, but it's a lengthy process of getting all the copyright approvals from the foundation. But it's been just a wonderful experience getting started on the arrangements of that and getting the kids working on it. So we're really looking forward to it. Musically, we're going to do all kinds of interesting stuff visually with it, and I'm really looking forward to letting people see what Prophecy is.
What's been the biggest challenge for you so far this year?
There's a lot of difficulty in the musical book, and we're doing a lot of the same things that have been successful for us in the past. Lots of tempo changes, lots of variation in what's going on musically with the kids, lots of spreads on the field, lots of multiple responsibilities on the students movement-wise. And so that's been tricky. It always is in this kind of developmental phase with everything for us. But again, we're really looking forward to it.
I often quote famed pageantry designer Michael Cesario, who is fond of saying that the obligation of a champion is to move the art form forward the following year. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that your show is going to do that? Absolutely.
You know, again, I think the elements of what we have been in the past are certainly present. But we've got a lot of challenges in what we're doing. There's a lot of multiple meter stuff in the profanation movement. And again, a lot of things that we feel like are going to push things forward.
Chris, I want to spend a considerable amount of time talking to people who are maybe new to the marching band activity, whether they're students or parents, fans, or people who maybe have been around the activity a little bit more, but aren't sure about a few things. Can we talk a little marching band basics with you?
Absolutely.
Okay. First of all, from your perspective as an educator, what is the main benefit to a child being in marching band?
I think there's tons of them. And all of my kids have been a part of marching band here at the high school. And I've seen it as a parent and as an educator here for the last 29 years. Most of this is not going to turn kids into professional marching band people. And obviously there are paths for that, both on the design side of things, on the teaching side of things, for kids to have futures in the activity. But I think what the main thing kids get out of this is a sense of community within a larger high school, especially a larger high school like Carmel. It provides kids with a group. It provides them with a family, a home. And I think most programs have a similar setup. No matter what the size of it is, it provides a unit for the student, and a place that they can kind of call home and call a family within a larger school setting. It provides kids with opportunities to work on time management. All of these groups work extremely hard and for a ton of hours. And I think it really does our kids a lot of good having to plan for that and making sure they're keeping up with all of their academic responsibilities, being able to organize time, being able to just manage like typical executive functioning things. What do I need to bring to a rehearsal? How do I pack a bag? What do I need for lunch today? And we try to encourage our parents to let the students become pretty self-sufficient in that. One of the roles that we have as high school educators especially is we're working on turning out young adults, and getting, hopefully helping, along with their parents, getting to a point where they can be independent adults as they head off to college. So again, I think there's a lot within the marching band structure and the activity that we do here that helps generate that kind of thing for kids.
What do you think is the number one misconception that new band students and new band parents bring into the activity that you need to dissuade them of?
I think the first thing is there's two actually. The first thing is the perceived ease that it happens with. A lot of people don't anticipate the quantity of time that it takes, the quantity of effort that it takes to be really great at something. And I think that's one of the first things that we've got to really talk to our parents about is setting up the expectations of here's how the quantity of hours that we're going to work at this, and it is going to be difficult. And your students, especially in that first year when they don't really understand what the end point looks like, you go through 2 or 3 months of really delayed gratification work. And we're kind of at the point now where we're going to go to a show, but we've been at this for a couple of months now. And it's hard for a first year student and a first year parent to understand the amount of work that has to go into it before the outside rewards start happening. So I think that's a tricky one. The other aspect of it that especially if we've got parents that are coming from an athletic background or a team background, is the competitive aspect of things. You know, it is a competitive activity for sure, but there are very few groups that spend any time at all talking about that. There's no defense in marching band. Nobody's playing against each other, and I think it's the development of the perfection in the show that really catches some people off guard right away.
I was looking forward to seeing Carmel's zone defense this fall.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's say a first year student comes in and all of a sudden they realize, hey, this is kind of tough. I really have to work hard. I got to sweat. I got to practice. And they go to mom and dad and they say, I don't think this is for me. I want to quit. How do you handle that situation, Chris?
Well, first of all, I start with the parents early on and let them know that at some point in their kid's first 2 or 3 weeks, that is going to happen. So I preload that with the parents right away. It's a natural tendency, especially with high school kids who haven't experienced that kind of work. And a lot of them have, but others haven't. And so we talk to the parents and preload exactly what's going to happen with that and how we're going to address it. When I have that kind of conversation with a parent and the student, most of the time it turns out that there's something else going on. You know, I can't keep up with this class, or I didn't make any friends this week. And we work really hard with our student leaders and our entire staff to make sure that we're creating connections with those students right away. And that really helps solve some of that also. It helps create that community with the new students right away.
I imagine you also manage expectations with those parents when it comes to competition, like you mentioned.
For sure. Yeah, and it's again a big conversation. We talk to them all the time about supporting other groups, making sure all of these kids are working incredibly hard and spending tons of hours doing this. And I think it's really important that our parents, show that kind of support for all the other groups. And I'd hope that other directors are doing the same, and I know most of them do. It's really a wonderful community of people that are all very supportive of what each other are doing.
Those new parents, along with the parents that have been there for a year or two, are going to be fans as well, sitting in the stands watching these shows, trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Where should I look? Why are they throwing guns? What is the point of drill? There are so many questions. The first time you see a really good high school marching band show that fans have. So let's talk a little bit about history, Chris, and help us understand why we see the things we do and why we hear the things we do the way we do.
All of these organizations have evolved over a long period of time. 40 years ago when I was in high school, it was a simpler time. There were not as many drill sets. We weren't moving as much. It was for kind of unrelated songs and not really a unified production type of thing. Even prior to that, it evolved from military organizations, American Legion posts. So a lot of the things that you see are portions of the evolution of things. You'll see American flags being presented at award ceremonies. Those are things that evolve from the Legion and from the drum corps idiom. You'll see different percussion instruments that have evolved, different brass instruments that have evolved, all the color guard equipment like the rifles and sabers. And those are all just points, if you look back at the history of things, where it has evolved through from those military organizations and Legion organizations, community-based bands, through into the scholastic part of things at high schools, where it was mainly parades, football game performances, show tunes kind of things, playing Chattanooga Choo Choo while you make a train and march it across the field. A lot of things what people would traditionally associate with large college experiences at half times. And then it has, over the years, created this competitive aspect of it. And people are now edging much more into the Broadway type style theater production with tons of choreography, tons of props, tons of background things, lots of storyline built into the shows. And I think it's a cool evolution of what's going on. It is confusing to look at the first time for some new people who haven't really seen this before, for sure.
I tell people, if the show's well designed, you will kind of know where to look instinctively. Your eye will be led to where you should look. Is that the case?
Absolutely. And it's something we think about on the design side a lot. Understanding where we want the focus of the audience and the judges to be is something that we talk about all the time. And a lot of times we will have multiple events happening, but prioritizing those and making sure that we're bringing the visual emphasis to where the musical emphasis is something that we work really hard at to make sure that people are understanding where to look at, what to listen to, what is the main thing that we want people to get.
Now, having said that competition isn't the main thing in this activity, you noted it is a competition. You're also trying to appeal not just to the audience, but to judges. Are those two goals, do they often run in opposition to each other?
For sure. It is sometimes harder to understand when you're operating at the level that people who are trained in the activity are going to understand. Some things that we're doing with the visual programs, with the color guards, some things that we're doing musically may not seem like the most difficult thing or something that makes sense. But when you've got people that are really trained in the activity and trained in the art form and trained as judges, they can certainly pick up on a lot of those things a lot more quickly. But again, it's also part of the audience experience, and we do think about that quite a bit also. And I don't think they're completely separate things. Things that are appealing to a wide variety of audience members can also be appealing to a wide variety of the judges also.
And I hate to use the word compulsories, but I think it's people who have any familiarity with subjective Olympic sports like gymnastics or figure skating will know that there are parts of the routine that judges are expecting to see called compulsories, for certain fundamental skills that they want to see on exhibit. That plays out in the marching band idiom too, doesn't it?
For sure. I think there's certainly not a list of those things anywhere or things that are expected, but I think there are expectations of the quality in the performance for sure that are universal across. And I think that there are things that are expected to be seen, but they may be approached in really different ways by different groups.
So technical virtuosity would be
Sure.
on display, but it might differ from group to group.
Absolutely. And that's a great example. For some people, technical virtuosity is how many notes are we playing and how much triple tonguing are we doing with our brass section and that kind of stuff. There is also technical virtuosity in changing tempo 7 different times in one phrase and making sure that you are playing with great sounds across an ensemble spread across the entire field. Those are also technical aspects that are incredibly difficult to achieve, but might not be to the immediate eye or the untrained eye in ear, something that's as difficult.
One of the odd things, I don't know why it occurs to me, maybe because I do it, but if you're a first timer at a marching band contest, a BOA contest this fall, you might see somebody cupping their hands behind their ears during the show. What's that all about, Chris?
Absolutely, and it's something that's funny to see the first time you see it. It does make it easier to hear things, and you'll often see staff members down on the sideline with their hands back behind their ears and listening to things. It kind of isolates the rest of the sound coming from behind you and focuses your hearing up onto what's going on in the field. I don't know that it's that big of a deal, but you'll definitely see it happening, and you do get a little bit of a different perspective musically.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And you look so cool doing that, too.
I don't know about that.
What is Chris Kreke's expectation of this 2023 season from the Carmel Greyhounds?
It is what it is every year. We talk to our kids extensively when we start the seasons about the history of the group. Obviously, we've been very competitively successful over the years. We've built a program over decades now that I think is viewed as one of the better programs in the country. And we're very proud of that evolution. And we talk to the kids a lot about that history. But I also take a lot of time to talk to them that those achievements and that history isn't theirs yet. Every year is a new group of kids, and we come into it with the same set of expectations that we do with all of our groups, that they're going to learn how to work hard, and they're going to put in the time necessary to have a incredible outcome. And again, that's not a competitive thing. That's a walk off the field at the end of finals, whatever that is, and make sure that you feel like you have given the best possible presentation of what you've been asked to do. And that's our goal for the end of the season, every season, is making sure that that last one is the best one. And that over the course of the entire season, that we're improving and we are giving performances that are reflective of where we're at in that week. You know, we're going to Brownsburg High School this weekend to perform at their invitational. We're going to do about a little less than 2/3 of our show at that. We are certainly nowhere close to the performance quality that we're going to be at Grand Nationals. But I feel pretty sure that our kids are going to be a great representation of where they're at this week. And then we continue to grow next week, and I'll talk to them on Saturday night after we're done and figure out whether or not we met that goal. And then on Tuesday, when we start rehearsing again for the following week, that's not good enough anymore. And we continue to make progress forward, and by the end of the season, hopefully it's where we want it to be.
That is something I think first-time parents will discover during the course of the fall that they may not have anticipated, that what you see in September is nowhere near what you're going to see in November, that the show gets layered. It not only gets perfected and cleaned, but it gets layered. Things get added to it, and the production becomes fuller.
Yeah, we talk to our parents about that a lot. And we're very lucky. We've got very supportive parents here. They're very involved, and they're around a lot. All of our rehearsals are out in the middle of a parking lot. Everything's wide open. We've got a lot of parents standing around at the end watching things, and it's really fun to watch the evolution of what happens. And I'll have them coming up to me all the time. Oh, I saw that we added some choreography to that thing, and we played this a little differently, and there was a drum part here that we changed. And for me, that's also part of the fun of this, is taking a look at what the product is. What do we need to add to it? What do we need to take away from it? What can we change here and there to make it better? And that's all part of the evolution over the course of the season.
Do you encourage Carmel parents to stay in the stands and watch other bands?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And encourage them to be very vocal supporters of all the other groups. Again, all these kids are working hard. All these staffs are working very hard. There's a lot of effort that goes into being great at marching band. And we want to make sure that our parents are helping recognize that with other groups also.
I'll be at the Indianapolis Super Regional. Cannot wait to see Carmel there. Chris Kreke, thank you so much for getting us fired up for the start of the BOA season.
Thanks, Dan.
That is the marching band director for the defending BOA Grand National Champion Carmel Marching Greyhounds from Carmel, Indiana, who will perform this weekend at the BOA Regional in Louisville, Kentucky, along with 25 other great bands from 5 states. The other BOA Regional Championship Saturday takes place at one of the most historic venues in the marching activity, Warhawk Stadium in Whitewater, Wisconsin. That stadium was home to the very first BOA, then MBA Grand National Championships back in 1975. And before that, 1972, they hosted the first Drum Corps International World Championships. You don't have to be there to enjoy either show. Both Louisville and Whitewater will be streamed live by Box 5 Media. Find out how to watch at box5tv.com. And whatever happens in this first weekend of championships, you'll hear about it next week right here. Break Ranks is a production of Music for All. I'm Dan Potter. Until next time,
Go for it! Break ranks!